Hi everyone, I am Sam Holmes from Careers Portal, and today I'm going to be joined by Alexandria Procter, who is the CEO of DigsConnect. She's a serial entrepreneur, she's a loud talker, a great thinker, and above all, she is a fantastic human being. Today we're going to be talking about student accommodation, listing property, renting property, buying property, everything in the student accommodation sphere. So if that interests you, stick around, and yeah, we hope you enjoy. Alex, good morning. How are you doing?
Hey Sam, I'm doing really good. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I can't complain living in the world of Zoom and load shedding and COVID. How have things been for you recently?
Well, I got 2 hours of sleep last night. We have two really big product deadlines, actually three now I think about it, coming up that we have to launch before the end of February. So our product team has been going flat out, and also behind schedule. So I was up the whole night doing some markups. So a bit tired, but yeah, good. I mean, at one point, actually, last night, I think about it, there was load shedding between midnight and 2 a.m. So I had one of my phones as a torch, and I was trying to do this markup on Adobe XD with like my phone torchlight. But you know what? We make it work. South Africa makes a couple of years out of us.
Yes, yeah, you have to adapt in South Africa, and that's a key characteristic of an entrepreneur like yourself. But and so you've touched on working yourself to the bone, and that is at the moment for DigsConnect. So could you elaborate a bit on what DigsConnect is, what your core mission is, all that sort of jazz?
So DigsConnect is a student house marketplace, essentially for a young adults place where you go to find a home. And I started it when I was a student at UCT, facing this exact same problem. So I mean, I'm from the Eastern Cape originally, and then I went to UCT for undergrad, and I got to Cape Town, and it's like, where do you go to find a place to stay? Like, I was literally going to posters stuck up on walls outside the library, taking those little pieces of paper there at the bottom. You kind of like, you pull the number, then half it rips in half. And you're like, oh no, you get the next one. Then you call the landlord and you're like, hey, is this room still available? Like, how do I see pictures? Like, how can I check it out? And then it's not available, so you have to call the next one. And there's just kind of no place to go. And then on your Prop 24s or more traditional sites, it was more targeted towards people that want to rent out their entire property. So I was like, to find student accommodation, especially because there's so many students in South Africa. And so I started DigsConnect literally out of necessity, just to solve a problem that I was facing and that my friends were facing and that UCT was facing. And next thing I knew, it sort of had blown up all over the country. And I remember sitting in my lectures looking at our Google Analytics and just seeing listings popping up in places that I never knew existed. There's a place in our country called Potchefstroom, and it exists, and it's really cool. But like, I did like a geography lesson on Google Analytics, and so it's a place to go just to find a home, on your app, on your phone, on web. You go on there and you just find a safe, awesome place to stay close to university.
So you touched on it briefly there. You initially were just aiming to solve a student housing crisis.
Yeah.
And how has that process been, given the landscape we find ourselves in South Africa?
Well, I mean, what's been so interesting about it is that, I never went into this wanting to be like an entrepreneur. I was never one of those people that was, hustling at school and like, doing like business days and those kids who are always like hustling and starting businesses and they're gonna go straight, be very successful, go into this business life and be very successful. That was never me. I was kind of the wild kid that was in attention the whole time. I'm just a troublemaker, to be honest. And so DigsConnect, it wasn't like I had this grand vision and a business plan and, this is, KPIs and a SWOT analysis. Like, none of that essentially is a 3-year commerce degree boiled down to one sentence, just like solve a problem, add value. And that was what had happened. I mean, like, it's someone's need where there's 2.3 million students in South Africa, about 800,000 to 1.2 million looking for off-campus housing. I mean, as an example, UCT's got 30,000 students and only 5,000 beds in residence. So there's just this overwhelming need. And for the landlords, they have these empty rooms, have houses, they've got 2 bedroom flats, they just want students. So it's just like servicing this need that just kind of exists in the market and then servicing it well. People need a place to stay. So, COVID or no COVID, everyone needs a home. And also, more to that, according to like, our Bill of Rights in South Africa, like everyone deserves a good home, a safe home, and like a loving home. And so like, what does that mean? How can we start bringing that through technology so that people are finding those things? They are finding a safe and just almost like a cozy home where you go there at the end of the day after a long day of class and you just feel like you can just sit on the couch, do your work, be the best version of yourself and feel connected to other people.
No, I love that. I love that. I love it all. I mean, the interface is great. It's easy to use. It looks good. And like you said, it ultimately connects people and makes the whole process a whole lot easier. And I loved what you touched on about being an entrepreneur. I think there is this hustle culture that a lot of young people experience today. And they think, if I'm not doing business studies or like starting 3 companies in my sleep and then executing on deadlines from 2 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, I'm a failure. So, and you don't necessarily have to come from commerce. Your background's interesting because you essentially majored in philosophy for a duration of. Exactly. Okay. I love that. And then so while we're on that sort of topic, I know it's a bit Tim Ferrissy, but what would your 5 startup tips be for young people? And we'll call them entrepreneurs, but like you've described, these people can be anyone.
I love it. I think do come entrepreneurs. That's why, like, I sort of realized that I never knew I was entrepreneur until someone's like, "Oh, as an entrepreneur," and I was like, "I'm an entrepreneur," and I think it comes so inherently to South Africans. So if you're hustling, if you want to just add value, build something cool, you're an entrepreneur, and you don't like it gets like this, it doesn't be so like mystical. You can demystify it. You don't have to be building AI or deep tech or blockchain or doing like this really. I mean, you can, and it's awesome if you do. But if you're just adding that, and you like people paying you for that value, you're an entrepreneur. So the 5 things that's for every entrepreneur. Okay, what I'd say is just start. Just start. Like, if your idea is existing in your head and you're not doing anything about it, you're not helping anyone at all, especially not helping yourself. You're not helping everyone around you who benefit from this. I mean, like DigsConnect, for example, it's great for the students, but like also for the landlords, it's added so much value. I mean, we've generated tens of millions of rands for lease value for your normal middle class South Africans who invest in the economy. They've taken on mortgages, they've bought properties. These are good people who deserve to have tenants. And like, just because I got the idea out of my head and into the world, it triggered that value. So just start. Like, no more excuses, no more talking about it, just do it. And like, there's this thing that Paul Graham always says. Paul Graham's one of these like very famous investors in Silicon Valley. He's brilliant. And he says, you should be embarrassed almost by your first product you put out there because it's so immature and it's like, it should be too soon to launch. But have this too soon to launch mentality. We just do it. Just do it. And, if 100 people hate it, but one person likes it, that's enough. The next person liking it, the third person liking it. So just do it is the first thing I'd say. Okay, second thing I'd say is focus on one value offering. So like, do one thing and one thing only. Like, you're going to start an idea and you'll be like, oh, we could do this and this and this and add these things on. And before you know it, you're looking at this like monstrosity of awesomeness and you're like, I want to do it all. But like, doing it all, like, see it as like a 10-year project. What can you do right now? What's the one basic thing? Like, when I first launched DigsConnect, it had 2 pages. You could find a Digs and add a Digs, and that was it. It was ugly also. I built it on like Wix or something, and like it was hideous and you couldn't even like use it half the time. Like, it's so the value offering. People would see properties and could add properties and like boil it down, like focus on one thing and then don't do anything else until you've done that one thing really, really well. Third point I'd say is build something that you know about. Like, especially if it's your first time, like, build something the ins and outs completely. If you're going to build a product for a customer and you're not that customer who would use it, you have to try to get into their mindset. So like, what makes businesses work, and that's what Jeff Bezos always says, is like absolute customer obsession. Like, how can you build something that will add so much value to your users' life? They want to pay you for it. If you want to take someone's hard-earned money, for something you're going to offer them, why would they part with that? Why is your option better than the others? Like, we live in a world of capitalism, and I love capitalism, but you've got all these options. Why would someone choose yours? And if you can't convince someone that your product or your service is better, they're not going to buy it, essentially. And the only way to make them know, like, or the only way to make the product or service better is to deeply understand the user. And so if you are the typical kind of user, you can build the best possible product. I was just looking for a home. I was frustrated with everything out there. I was like, what would be the best case scenario? Like, what is like this incredible app I used to find student accommodation? And we're on a journey to building that. We're still not there. 7 months in, and we're still not there, getting there, because I know this thing. Like, I'm living this experience as a young person finding a home. The fourth thing I'd say is, we could do a whole podcast just on each one of these points. Actually, there's so much more I want to say. I'm just so close to the time.
Yeah.
Fourth one I'd say is be obsessed. It is difficult. It is really, really difficult building a company. It is the most insanely difficult thing. And even me saying this, like, and warning you it's difficult, doesn't adequately cover how difficult it's going to be. Like, you can go and being like, I'm tough, it's going to be really hard. Like, you're going to have like some of the most like soul defeating, crushing days of your life. It is difficult, it is exhausting. You have to love it. You have to love it. You have to be passionate about it. You have to love this thing more than you love yourself. You have to know that you can have sleepless nights. Your health's going to suffer. Your relations are going to suffer. Everything's going to like, I mean, someone's telling me the other day how he's like, I literally went bald because I was so stressed from my company. You have to love it more than you love yourself. Like, it's not something that normal people would do. You have to be a bit crazy to pursue this thing because it's going to like take on a life of its own. You have to love it more than yourself. Almost have like a, I'll say like a parent's love, like I'd say like a mother's love for this thing. And the last thing I'd say, and this is a very practical one, is don't spend money unnecessarily before you have to. There's a fallacy that, oh, I have to raise money. Raising money is the last thing you should do. You haven't made it if you've raised money. Like, you've made it if your customers pay you for your service. Raising money is when you've validated your idea works and you're trying to grow that. And spend necessarily, I mean, like, again, like, you don't have to build, like, if you want to build, for example, like, say, like a DigsConnect, you know, the idea is, oh, I want to build a platform that can house 1 million students in the first week. It's not going to work. Do things that don't scale. For example, in the early days, I was on the phone the whole time, trying to like hustle, you know, get people to list, get people to like, okay, check this property out. And from that process, learn out how to build a product that can scale. In the early days, you don't have to spend money. I mean, using online tools, WordPress, Wix, free drag and drop things, you know, using Instagram to market, just like being on the streets, just hustling, walking, like, use your energy and use your ingenuity, use your creativity to get things off the ground. But you don't, there's a fallacy that you have to use, you know, a lot of startup capital. Start small. Start with 5 customers, you know, 5 customers, that's a huge, if you can get 5 people to like love your product, you can get 52, you can get 100 too, and then you get 1,000 too. But it takes time, like, but just start now with something small and focus.
I love my favorite point, I think, and especially if younger people are listening, is starting. I think so many people are terrified to start because you know that when your idea can be fantastic in your head and you can feel really good about it, but you know when it has to be tested by the market and peers, that is terrifying. And the good news is, you know, we're all just human beings trying to make it work. So some people are going to love you, some people are going to hate you. Okay, we're going to take a bit back.
It's actually one thing, Sam, you say about people, like, you know, that people are so worried about getting embarrassed. Like, oh, I launched it. People are going to see it. They think it's like kind of lame, you know, they judge me. People don't actually think about other people that much. Trust me. Everyone's thinking about themselves. Launch your product. No one's going to like judge you for that long. They'll judge you for maybe a second, make it over it. So do it.
No, spot on. So we're going to take you a bit back to you when you were at university, because I also think this is a worthy piece of advice that you could speak on. And that is, of course, in your honors year at UCT, one of your lecturers, apparently, allegedly, advises you to drop out to pursue your business prospects. Could you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, he was my, he lectured in biology, and name was Adam West. He's so cool. He was one of the best lecturers, and he won like the Distinguished Teachers Award like so many times because he was such a good lecturer. Like, he really is brilliant. It's one of those, you know, every now and again in your life, you'll meet a teacher at school or at varsity who will change the course of your life. And he's one of those guys, I can't imagine how many students' lives he's changed for the better because he's just brilliant. I actually haven't spoken to him in years. I should really reach out and be like, look what you did. He's super cool. And I think, you know, I think the lesson from that is, you know, I do think that everyone's life should be an act of service towards humanity. Everyone's, you know, we do have a debt to each other as human beings, are like social beings. I think that I found that there's no great happiness in life than like living a life for act of service, for like doing things for other people, and like to have a life to build, to contribute towards like our collective projects in civilization. It's wonderful. But also you owe to yourself to be happy, you know, like at the end of the day, it is your life. And you don't owe it to anyone else, you know, like in a sense of being happy. So like you can do things, you can contribute to the world, but if you authentically are like pursuing your happiness, authentically pursuing your vision, like and creating and building and doing what you think makes sense, what you think is beautiful or valuable, like you are contributing to humanity in a way. But like, be true to yourself. I mean, there's this thing about, you know, your parents saying, oh, study this and follow this course. I mean, I told my parents are going to study philosophy. they were horrified. But I really enjoy philosophy. Like it's really is your life. It really is, and you owe it to yourself to be happy. And I think with DigsConnect, like I was at university because that's what's, doing my postgrad, because I wasn't too sure what you do, and that's kind of what you do. And my parents like, get a quite education, and it's sage advice. It's good advice, obviously, but I discovered something that made me feel alive, that made me feel like happy, like really, really happy building this company. And I think, Adam was my student advisor, and he was like, I think you should do it. Like also because he was like, you're a terrible student, let's be honest. You're scraping by, so I mean, you can always come again next year. So
what you said about servicing each other, I think, is extremely noble, and there's room for it in terms of I'm going to create something or be someone who helps others and make money at the same time, of course, because I think people feel that it's like this dichotomy that you're either a good person or you're like raking in bags of cash, and life is a lot more complex than that.
Well, money is people clapping for you in a sense. They've said that your value to the world, like, I'm not saying if you haven't got money, you haven't made it. I'm just saying that, like, once you've started, like, really, like, understanding your users, you've built this company, you built this product, you spent your years grafting, and people are paying you for it. It's not a bad thing. It's not like an evil thing to have been like, okay, look, I've started, like, this company started generating money because of this. And then you start, build your team and hire people. Like, it's not like this moral, it's like you've done bad by making money. It's like you've added value, this is like a great thing to have done.
And I mean, especially when I look at it in a country like South Africa, if you want to make a difference, the best place to start is creating a business that hires people. But anyway, we won't get too deep into that, because now I've got some more property related questions for you. And property lingo, because I know when some people look to rent, move into a digs, buy their first house, they can be a bit confused by the jargon, the language that property people use. We'll call you property people. And so we're just going to go through a few of them. And the first one is landlord.
So a landlord basically is the person that owns the property, and you could be dealing with them to sign your lease, or you could be dealing with the estate agent or the manager of the property. But generally, the landlord is the person who owns the property, who is looking to rent out rooms.
There we go. There you have it. Best to have a good relationship with your landlord.
In that situation, you want to get on.
You touched on the word already in that lovely response, and that is a lease. What is a lease?
A lease basically is the legal agreement that you as a tenant have with your landlord. So because you're now going to like a contract, it's interesting for most young people, your lease is your first kind of legal contract you're going to go into. You've now made a promise to this landlord, I'm going to pay you rent every month. So it is quite a serious moment in a young person's life. You've made a binding agreement. I'm going to pay you rent every month for the stipulated length of time. So let's say if it's a 12-month lease, typically for the year, you basically agree that you're going to pay them the money. You aren't going to break anything. You're basically going to act decently. I always say when it comes to the law, in the best case scenarios, you'd sign an agreement and then never look at it again, because you've spoken verbal what the agreement is. You're good people. You both want to do the deal. You want to rent the room. The landlord wants to rent the room out to you. You won't have to look at the lease ever again. But just in case things go wrong, you want to have a lease, for both sides.
Absolutely. Okay, that was great. Here's a big one in terms of being a student and not getting a raw deal. What is the difference between furnished and unfurnished?
So you generally get 3 categories of properties. For students, what unfurnished is generally a place has like nothing in it. So you're going to come, it's going to have the building structure, but generally it won't have a bed or a fridge or a stoves are generally built in, so that doesn't issue. It won't have a table, all the furniture basically, it won't have any of that. But a lot of things will be built in. So you can just check, is there built-in oven? Is there built-in stove? Is there built-in cupboard? All those kind of things. I've never seen a property that doesn't have a built-in bathroom. So you should have that. You should have that covered. Kind of move out and literally take the kitchen sink with you. Partly furnished is when generally the essentials are in. So essentials are generally like your fridge, like a microwave, a kettle, a bed, and maybe like a lamp would be your essentials. Everything else, like a couch, all the nice bits, you can kind of get those as you go. I would say essentials are plants. As you can see, I've got quite a few plants here, but and then fully furnished generally is fully kitted out, and all you need to bring is like your personal belongings. So, I mean, your toothbrush, your clothes. Fully furnished sometimes includes linen and sometimes doesn't. So you just need to look after that on the lease. Am I required to bring my own bedding, my pillow, my duvet, or does this place literally have everything? Those are generally 3 categories.
Okay, that was great. And we chatted a bit about that now. So, also another key distinction when renting or purchasing property is the living situation. So, could you take us through co living?
Yes. So co-living is basically when you live with someone. And let's say, for example, you live like your typical 4-bedroom, a 4-bedroom digs. A dig is basically a house where students live, is the name for it. In Hatfield, so close to UP, and it's when you just live with other people. Living with people can be some of the best and worst experiences of your life. So you kind of want to be. I mean, I always say is like you want to kind of like have a golden rule there. Like do as you will be done by, and that. Like how would you want? What kind of space would you like to occupy, and be that person for your mates? So there's a base level of, I mean, it's fundamentally safety. So you want to make sure that's a safe place to live. And that's why we prioritize safety as like, I think obviously being female founded in South Africa, like safety is always top of mind. So we KYC all our users when you sign up and make sure there's no dodgy people on the platform. We call our landlords. So safety and then respect is important. And then after that, just being a good person. And then if you kind of follow like the basic, like fundamental rules of like just respect and decency, like you can actually have so much fun together. Then you actually can be crazy. And it is like banter and pranks. I mean,
yeah, and I don't think there's any shame in if, I know we've spoken about students, but if you're a young adult and you're still working, living in communal spaces, I think is sometimes frowned upon, especially by older members of society. Like, oh, why haven't you got your own house? Where's your own flat? Like, where's the ring on the finger? We have to meet all these things. Whereas communal living is, it's completely, like you said, it can even lead to better experiences.
now the game's changed. I think that like our generation, like millennials and Gen Zs are changing the way that like literally that how what we want from the world. We decide like we're not going to just do things because that's things are done. We're like actually what I want for my life. And if it's remote work, if it's staying in the digs until you're 35 because you're having the best time ever, like do it. It's happiness, and you don't owe your happiness to anyone else. Like stay with your mates. It's more fun.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to pivot one more time before we wrap things up. And I'd just like to know, and I'm sure everyone listening would like to know, general advice for those looking to either rent their first home, buy their first home, move into their first digs. The floor is yours.
Well, general advice, of course, you got to use DigsConnect. We have spent 37 months thinking about this in immense detail, and we've built I would say is advice, what I think is the best product, the best app for finding a home. On our app, on the website, you go to DigsConnect.com, or you can download the app from the App Store or the Play Store on Android or iOS. And it's not just me saying this. Some validation I got recently, which is really exciting, is we build our website, our tech, using a framework called Flutter. Flutter is a language that's been developed by Google. And the reason we use it, there's a few reasons why we use it. It's quite technical, but it's a lovely language, but it's quite new. There's not really many companies that are pioneering the technology, especially not in South Africa. Google found out that we were building our app on Flutter. They got a hold of us. And we pretty much become a case study for them. And in the latest batch of Google marketing, talking about how Flutter is being used, they're actually featuring the DigsConnect app. So if you want to find a place to stay, there really is no better place to go than on DigsConnect, not only in terms of the product, but also from the human elements. So we've got an incredible customer success team, and we're very hands-on. We will call you and WhatsApp you from the moment you register until you find a home, and we'll walk the journey with you and make sure you find the perfect place.
Awesome. And then conversely, also for people looking to list property.
Exactly. We work the journey with you also. As soon as for first-time landlords who just bought their first property, it's a really exciting time, and it's scary. Or if you've been a landlord for 20 years, the ins and outs, but you're looking just to join the technical revolution. Say you go on the app, it's really is. We actually re-releasing our added digs process in the next 2 weeks, and really have thought through like the best way how you can get your property and bring it to life on DigsConnect. And our CS team also needs to walk the journey with you if you're ever confused about it, and just get you some tenants.
DigsConnect, it's a one-stop shop. We love it. I love talking about it. I love seeing people who are so passionate and energetic, not only about what they're doing, but the space that they work in. And that's very apparent with you. Where is DigsConnect in 5 years?
DigsConnect in 5 years, I am such a diehard patriot. I love this country so much, and I love South Africans so much. They like fill my heart with love. So I just want to make more of an impact on, in South Africa and in students' lives. We want to house the youth of South Africa. So as I said, there's 2.3 million students in this country. We're going to house them all. We want to make sure that no student is homeless. Everyone has a home, and not just a roof over their head, but a place that is safe and loving and fun, where you just treat it as a home. You come home at the end of the day, and you just like, I'm home, with friends and my homies, and like, this is the place to be. So we are committed to developing the housing space in our country. We want to house everyone, from Potchefstroom to Cape Town.
Yeah. And then what I'm sure a lot of people are interested in, as am I, because I mean, you've seemed to have done it all at such a young age already. And I know you'll be like, oh, shush, I have, but where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hopefully still causing lots of trouble. I hope that I don't get too corporate and too normal and too like I have to be corporate, and I hope I'm still stirring the pots, causing trouble, and yeah, still being authentically myself.
Alex, thank you so much for coming on and giving up your time. I know how busy you are, and it really means a lot. And I hope the audience find a lot of value in this. I sure did. And I tremendously enjoy chatting to you. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Simon. Have an amazing day.
Well, there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that gave you a lot of value. You can find Alex and DigsConnect at DigsConnect.com, and on all their socials, they're DigsConnect, whether that's on Instagram or Facebook. Go check them out. We'll leave all the links in the description. We'll also leave all of Careers Portal's sort of information links so that you can find us a lot better and engage with our content across all platforms. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for listening. Have a lovely day.